My desire to create this community has really been born from a lack of resources for housing, community, recreation, work opportunities for the profound population. We all kind of experience those service gaps, you know, from the time our kids are diagnosed to adulthood. But I feel like as we're approaching that adulthood cliff, you know, we're back in the battle. You know, we've had to fight for every resource, every opportunity for our kids, and this is no different.
Welcome back to Finding Common Ground with Heather and Steve. Today we're going to talk about intentional communities, and our guest is Kristina Cope. She's coming to us from Michigan. She's a mom of 3 kiddos who are on the spectrum. She is also connected to the National Council for Severe Autism for Michigan State, and she is the president and founder, I'm assuming, of Flawless Farms, which is the intentional community. And I can't wait to dive in. But before we do, Steve, you've had quite a day. Just so the audience has a little bit of background, Steve always has these initiatives cooking, you know, sometimes right in his hometown, sometimes they spread out a little bit. And he has this really cool thing that we've highlighted on the show with the Ability Bus, where veterans were helping people in his community get around with a bus. And that idea has really sparked something amazing. And today was a press conference. So why don't you give a little summary for everybody so they know what you've been up to, because your 10-minute press conference was kind of long.
Yeah, look, probably a brief history on it. OPWDD, which is our state agency, probably I'm sure you have something similar, Kristina, in your state, that oversees all of disability situations on the state level, contacted me and asked if I'd interview for this family representation thing, that documentary they were doing. And I went through Georgetown University and I met this film crew. I had to interview with both of them. They chose my family. They came in. They saw the veterans bus here. They went to another home after us, and that family was, the whole time they were there, was having transportation issues, and they kept thinking about how we kind of addressed it here in Utica and how we found a way to do it without all the state roadblocks and things that they put in our way to not have transportation addressed. And he sent me a proposal to start a 501c3. It's called worthdoing.org, and I talked a little bit about you, Kristina, when we talked about it. It's going to be a nationwide not-for-profit. It's going to be based out of Washington, D.C. Our goal is to have 100 buses in the first year, which is aggressive, and hopefully to get every town in each of our states to have one, because it's needed. And it's interesting because I was telling a reporter that was interviewing me this morning, I literally had 2 calls before the 11 o'clock press interview for transportation issues related to some respite situations in profound autism people in my area who couldn't get somewhere. One of them was a doctor's appointment. They couldn't get him there. And even the Ability Bus that's being used today was being used by Calberman, an agency in our area, to take 14 kids to a game farm. So it was already being used, so we couldn't. But it tells you that the need is out there. And so we're starting this nonprofit. They interviewed, Spectrum News found out about it. They're doing a story on it, which is going to be all over the state, which in turn will correlate with the national story, because the national film producer is going to send it out across the United States in a variety of different ways. And we're going to hit up veterans groups and other groups like I talked to you about, Kristina, about trying to get somebody in your area maybe to do it too and get you guys a bus. I'd like to get a bus on your farm. I was talking to Heather earlier about it, that I think you guys would be a perfect spot to try and do something in the beginning to try and get one there. So anyways, can you tell us a little bit about Flawless Farms and how you got into it?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I'm so inspired by the buses because you're absolutely right. Transportation is right next to housing. Those two issues are widespread, prevalent across the nation. I think we can all agree. But Flawless Farms is an intentional community that we are working on developing here in Michigan. I live in the Jackson area, which is kind of southeast Michigan. We're about an hour from Detroit. And my desire to create this community has really been born from a lack of resources for housing, community, recreation, work opportunities for the profound population. We all kind of experience those service gaps, from the time our kids are diagnosed to adulthood. But I feel like as we're approaching that adulthood cliff, we're back in the battle. We've had to fight for every resource, every opportunity for our kids, and this is no different. So in our area, for Michigan specifically, it's a desert. There are communities and organizations that serve individuals with autism. We have some great communities here in Michigan. There's one called Angel's Place. There's a place up in Holland, Michigan called Benjamin's Hope. There are organizations and communities, but none that serve the severe and profound. And the one community that does, Benjamin's Hope in Holland, we spent a day there with their founder, Krista Mason, and it is just a spectacular place. They're doing everything right there, but they serve 30 individuals. And that's it. And so the reality for most people to access that community is you'd probably get struck by lightning first.
Right.
So it's just a matter of, we see these wonderful opportunities and we want that opportunity for our child, but it doesn't exist, or you don't have access to it. And so my solution is to create that access for my community, my children and the other children in our community that are going to grow into adults and need that housing solution.
It is amazing. I've only visited one intentional community outside of New York State, and it was Benjamin's Hope. And I met Krista, and you're right. I was very inspired by her. She introduced me to the spelling method that her son uses, and it changed our lives. It's just like she really has a great idea going there, but it's not very scalable because sometimes there are these laws and regulations. Once you get to a certain size, it gets really, really complicated. So I know exactly what you're saying. We all want it for our kids. That's a beautiful spot. And I wish that more than 30 people could live there. So I love that you took the bull by the horns too. Professionally, what is your background? I'm just interested. You have 3 children with the diagnosis of autism. It sounds like variable levels of support, but what do you do during the day? Because I just wonder if that factors into your mindset, how you're approaching this.
Yeah, sure. So my day job, I am a registered nurse. And I have a master's in business administration with a healthcare focus. And I work for the state of Michigan. I work for a Medicaid program called Home Help. And we help individuals who are elderly or disabled get in-home services so that they don't have to go to a nursing home or go to an AFC. They can hire their neighbor, they can hire an agency, they can hire really whoever they want to help them do their ADLs, to help them do their laundry, to, if they have any medical needs, complete those medical tasks for them. And we pay that individual. And so that's and working with a Medicaid program has opened my eyes, to a lot of the rules and regulations and barriers, right? That we all face. I mean, you're absolutely right. A lot of the home and community-based rules and regulations were put into place to really foster community inclusion for individuals with disabilities. But I think as the years have progressed, it's being realized that those rules and regulations are actually, in a lot of ways, preventing individuals who have profound needs from being part of the community that they're intended to be part of, right? We've gone from one extreme to another. We've gone from Willowbrook State hospitals, institutions, and we said, well, that's not good, and it's not. And we've swung the entire other direction, and we've just thrown these individuals out into the community that really isn't embracing or accepting of individuals who have really high needs. And so where does that leave this individual? They're either living at home with aging parents, or they're in group homes, which in my opinion are smaller institutions. There's poorly paid staff. They don't have correct training. They're not equipped in a lot of ways to help that individual access their community, to have, the quality of life that they deserve. And so a place like Flawless Farms would offer, it's still, in a lot of ways, a group home model, just like at Benjamin's Hope, but it also has the feel of a community. There's activities, there's recreation, there's work opportunities if that individual has interests that are aligned with something that facility offers. They still go out into the greater community and enjoy opportunities that are available to them, but they are in a supportive environment. They have their needs met in a different way than they would if they were just living in a home in town.
The Flawless Farms, do you have the land? Like, what phase are you in right now?
We are currently in the phase of obtaining land. We are looking for funding. We're looking for donors. We're doing a lot of efforts to find the funding, find someone to donate land. So that's really step one. We're doing a lot of awareness in our community. We're kind of sharing, we're kind of the new kid in town. We've only, been in existence as an official nonprofit for a year. So we've made a lot of ground. We have a lot of interest. And so we're really hopeful in the next year that we will be in a position to obtain the land. And our goal beyond that then is to build the first house. And once we have that first house built, it will kind of be our flagship model that we can show and demonstrate. We want it to be, ADA accessible. We want it to have like all the technology. There's so many amazing technology tools that can be used in these homes now. And then after that first home is built, we want to build our center where we can hold activities and events. We currently run a teen social group that meets once a month. We do parent workshops. We offer resources to the community as an organization. But again, our mission and vision is really to build this community and then have those services and have those programs available to families in our area.
And I want the audience to just pause for a moment and think about it. Sometimes when people get hung up on the idea, like the problem seems so big, there's so many people and there's not enough houses and I don't know how to do it. You started with, let's get people together who have similar interests or needs. They can support one another. Let's form those relationships. You can start small, and as long as you keep taking steps forward, you get there. So if somebody's feeling really overwhelmed, also think about the benefit for the families. It's a little bit of respite, right? If you're not the one running the group, you're bringing them there. You're also interacting with other families that are walking a similar path to you, and those are your people. I grew up with amazing friends. They're all still wonderful. I'm connected to so many of them, but they don't live my life. Their kids are in college and they're traveling and they're doing all these amazing things. And I always think, that's great. I cannot tell them what just happened at my house because it's like so radically different. Not unless you live the life that we live. It's really hard to explain it to other people without being a downer. Like, I don't want to always be the one that's like, well, at my house, we started a fire and then somebody punched a hole in the wall. And then we nobody wants to hear that every time they talk to you. So you just start saying, yeah, we're doing great, even when you're not. So having people that you can really be honest with and have authentic conversations with and being really open, that is a beautiful place to start, because when you start building homes, you know who gets along. So, and Steve, I mean, I kind of set it up there because you know all about this, and you've been looking for different models for people who have aged out of your home. So, I mean, what's your comments on this?
The state agencies and the provider agencies, unfortunately, like to control everything with the regulations, with everything being rigid. And this is the way it is. And that's why we have all these roadblocks. I think, the reason we started the show, Heather, was to empower people to do it. And it's to get people like Kristina on here to give you the tools, and let's get the tools from you and exchange ideas and do it ourselves. Because, and we've talked about this, Heather, the cavalry is coming, but it's us. It's us. It's not going to be the state. It's not going to be the provider coming in and saving all of us. So it's important that you continue to do what you're doing, Kristina. We'll continue doing, and we would love to collaborate with some of the stuff that we're doing, with some of the stuff that you're doing, and more importantly, empower others to do this too, Kristina, because I can't say it enough. I truly believe that it's us. If you go back 50, 60 years, all the ARCs, UCPs, family advocacy centers, everything in my town was started by a single mom who was fed up with everything, just fed up with getting no services. And we're at that point again. We're there again.
Well, when you look at a huge organization like the Center for Discovery, right? That was the very first place I visited. I've been all over the country. I've visited other communities and organizations getting inspiration. And when I went to Monticello, New York, and saw Center for Discovery, I mean, that's like the largest scale, right? But when you realize that that place was founded in the basement of parents trying to find better resources for their children with Down syndrome, right? I mean, that's where we all start. And that's where I've gotten my inspiration, from Bittersweet Farms, from Krista Mason and Benjamin's Hope. We're all inspiring each other. I said to Krista Mason, the founder of Benjamin's Hope, I said, we could have a Benjamin's Hope in every county and every state, and it would not be enough. I mean, if that's not impactful, what is, right? And, here in Michigan, it's especially troubling, because sure, there's group homes. Sure, there's communities, like I said, Benjamin's Hope and Angel's Place, and there's the St. Louis Center, and there are places. But outside of Benjamin's Hope, every single community I've contacted and told them about my 16-year-old son and said, hey, as an adult, could he come live at your community? The answer was no. And that's what most parents face if they have a child or an adult with profound autism, is that door shuts. No, your child has too many behaviors. No, your child has too many medical issues. No, your child eats drywall. We can't deal with that behavior. And so they're excluded. The model of inclusion then excludes them. And here in Michigan, you say, well, what happens to these children and adults if their behavior or their situation doesn't allow for them to live at home anymore? Maybe their parents pass away. Maybe their behavior becomes so violent that they can no longer stay at home. The state of Michigan, because there are no group homes, there are no facilities that will take them, get admitted to state psychiatric hospitals that are not designed or equipped to handle children and adults with these types of disabilities. And it's just heartbreaking. And it's not the model that I think home and community-based services intends for these people to be part of their community. My friend's sons were admitted to the state psychiatric hospital for this exact reason. She was a single mom. She has 3 profound autistic sons who are all triplets. And the state didn't want to give her the resources that she needed to properly care for them at home. And so they took them and put them in a state psychiatric hospital. And they did not see the outside for 18 months.
Oh my gosh. And it's $1,000 a day. 3 children, yes. $3,000 a day, $90,000 a month. Imagine if they gave that mom a third of that, what she could do in her home. to keep her boys home or build a place that would work for them. My gosh, you could build a house every few months, like with the amount of money they were spending.
The bureaucracy here in Michigan is the things that are happening. As parents, we're all terrified, because that's the question we're all with, right? Like if something happened to me, Blake, my 16-year-old son, he has autism. He has catatonia. He has autoimmune encephalitis, PANDAS. He has a lot of medical issues. And I think, oh my goodness, if something happened to me, what would happen to him? And my fears echo to all the other families that are in our shoes. And the interesting thing, my son's diagnosed with catatonia, and that's kind of a new term that's out. A lot of people are hearing more and more. On simple terms, I explain it as it's the result of not having the appropriate engagement and resources available for individuals with profound autism. So if you think about it, they become prisoners in their own mind, okay? They're often non-speakers. My son is a non-speaker. He has a few words, but for the most part, he has difficulty communicating any needs. He has severe food restriction. He has aggressive behaviors. He's very large. He's 210 pounds and 5'10". So he's a big guy, right? And so for a while there, it became very difficult to do anything with him. We couldn't take him out in public because he could hurt somebody. He struggled going to school. And so he really became even more isolated. And so as these individuals lose meaningful daily activities and opportunities, they almost kind of go into this, their mind almost folds inside of itself, and they go into this severe depression, catatonic state. To me, it's very fascinating as a nurse because it's truly the connection between the brain and the mind and the body. For Blake, when he is in his catatonia, when he is, experiencing more moderate catatonia, we see him not be able to transition. So what does that look like? He might sit on the toilet for an hour before he's able to stand up and get in the shower. He may sit in the van for 45 minutes before he can actually stand up and get out. They get stuck. And then he goes through periods of dysautonomia. His heart rate can shoot up into the 150s, and then a half hour later it can be down in the 50s or 60s. They start to have physiological symptoms, and they stop interacting with the world. They just kind of lay there, and sometimes they posture. They can get their arms stuck up and they can't bring it down. They can become very aggressive and violent for no reason. We think they kind of go through some psychosis. And so it's very important that you find a psychiatrist who is experienced with catatonia and have them evaluated if you think that could be going on with your child, because treatment is imperative. If it's left untreated, it can be fatal. It can be lethal.
I was just going to say, if you're unable to move and eat and take care of some of your basic needs, and that's really hard when the communication piece isn't there. So I give you a lot of credit. It's a lot to take on at home. I mean, I know the strains on marriages and relationships, and even just your work relationship can be strained if you're coming in overwhelmed and tired or stressed. I mean, is that something you're comfortable discussing a little bit? Because I think a lot of people in our audience are in that spot.
Yeah, I think, that's the universal state of existence for a lot of us parents who, have these high needs children and loved ones. It has a ripple effect, and it impacts everything. It impacts your home life. It impacts your work life. It impacts your friendships. There's really not a piece of your life that it doesn't touch. With Blake and the last year really that we've endured with him, with the catatonia and, some of the new things that we were seeing with him, it just really turned our world upside down. And, for him, it was interesting to learn that the more that we do with him, the more that we get him out, which is difficult, right? Because we have the behaviors to deal with, but the more that he's engaged, the more, like just a couple of weeks ago, we took him to the fair and we try to get him out and doing his mental health. And you think about it, I mean, we call these individuals disabled and we say that they're profound and we give them all these labels, but at the end of the day, they're human beings, just like you and me. And if you think about our state of mind, right? Like if we just stayed at home day after day and looked at the walls and nobody interacted with us and everybody was afraid of us, like we would start to get depressed. We would start to be irritable. Like we would start to experience all of those things. And so I think that's just been a super important, when we're advocating and trying to get resources for him, through our community mental health organization, trying to get support staff into the house to help us with him and trying to get him out into the community as much as possible, has really become a huge endeavor for us because it is so important to his overall health and well-being. But Blake, his whole entire life, he's been a high needs kid, like, especially when the kids were younger. I mean, when Blake and Isabel, they're twins, when they were little, my youngest son, Jack, he was born when they were 2.5, almost 3. And so I had 2 3-year-olds and a newborn, and it was insanity for a long time. And it's isolating, whether when I look back and think about when they were little, or I look at today when, we are navigating Blake's severe, catatonia and behavior issues, or, Isabel, she has autism and she has some social and behavioral deficits, but she's pretty low need and she's a typical 16-year-old girl. So she wants to go do stuff and buy stuff. And, and then I've got a 13-year-old teenager who we homeschool. And so it's like our whole lives are just engulfed with, these needs and meeting them and trying to create resources. And it takes its toll. You get exhausted and you think, how can I go on just one more day?
Right.
But really, like you pointed out, Heather, connecting with other, it's that tribe that you find and that you surround yourself with. When I get around individuals like Steve or Krista Mason, it's so inspiring because I'm like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. And that's what I hope. I hope someday someone looks at what I hopefully achieve and says, well, if she could do it, then I can do it. And that's how, when I was talking to Steve, that's how we're going to create solutions. It's going to be us stepping up to the plate and saying, this is what my child needs. This is what my community needs. And again, if they can do it, if the Center for Discovery can begin in the basement of some parents, then so can Flawless Farms, so can Benjamin's Hope, so can the bus program, right? All of these great things are being created by parents and communities that care. And on a personal note with that, when my kiddos were little, we struggled. My husband, the kid's dad, had some mental health issues of his own. We had to move multiple times. We went bankrupt trying to get the twins the help they needed, because that was, 14 years ago. And we lived in Houston. We lived in the 4th largest city in the United States, and there were 0 resources for the kids. And so we moved from Houston, we moved to Dallas. Dallas had tons of resources, but unless you had Medicaid, you couldn't touch any of them. I visited a school called Mustard Seed Ranch, and it was the most amazing place I had ever seen. It was just, I wanted Blake and Isabel to go to the school more than anything. And they only accepted Medicaid. And we didn't qualify for Medicaid. I said, okay, how much would it cost I'll just pay. We'll figure it out and I'll pay. It was $5,000 a month per child. It would have been $10,000. Like who can afford that, right? So it was constantly finding resources, but not being able to access them. It's kind of like, and so fast forward today, Benjamin's Hope. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I can't access it. It's like these resources are in front of you, but you can't access them, or they're not for your child. Your child has too many behaviors. Flawless Farms will be a place where everyone is welcome, whether you have profound autism, whether you're Asperger's, whether you just need a place that's going to be accommodating and give you a job. And when you have a bad day, they're not going to fire you, right? Like, everybody has their own needs. And I just envision this community where everyone comes together and meets those needs for those people who can't find it anywhere else. And, you know, when we moved from Houston and we moved to Dallas, and then we couldn't find any resources there. And so then we moved to Florida to be near my in-laws so that we could be near some family. And in the midst of just all the chaos, we imposed poverty on ourselves so that we could qualify for Medicaid. You know, when we lived in Houston and Dallas, we made six figures together, and we moved to Florida. We rented this tiny house, and we imposed poverty on ourselves so that we could have access to what those kids needed. And like I said, we filed bankruptcy. We had our car repossessed. There was nothing we would not do to meet those kids' needs. And the stress of all of it just took its toll on my husband. And unfortunately, in 2015, he did take his own life.
I'm so sorry.
And so I truly can sit here and say, like, there are so many sacrifices that have been made by my family, but I'm not alone. I see those sacrifices everywhere that I look, with families that are impacted by profound autism or even less support autism. You know, I look at my youngest son, and while he doesn't have the high support needs, he has his own challenges. And so none of it's easy. It's just different. And so my goal with Flawless Farms, again, is to help families out there not have to endure what my family has had to endure, to make this journey a little bit easier, and to have a community exist. Like, if you're a new parent that just has a child diagnosed, or your child's 40 and you're afraid of dying, where's my child going to go? Who's going to be their guardian? We're at least a place someone can come and feel a sense of community and get resources and meet other parents and have access to the support that we lacked for years.
Absolutely. And when you think about, it sounds like, so correct me if I'm wrong, that your community would be for everybody, not just the individual with the disability. Their family could live there. Grandma and grandpa could have a condo there. Maybe the DSPs, the support staff that are working, the caregivers, maybe they would live in the same community. But the idea of an intentional community is everyone's playing a part. Everyone's adding to the purpose. Like, my husband's a mason. Maybe he would help with the sidewalks. And then somebody else is like, I'm really good at agriculture, but I only grow flowers. And they run the floral shop. But everybody kind of finds their little way of giving back and being part of this community where people are actually coming together. Because we don't have that in the United States the way we used to. I don't know my neighbors. I can't run over next door and ask for a cup of sugar. I know how silly that sounds, but when I grew up, I could. You know, I knew who all my neighbors were, and I knew who their kids were, and I knew what schools they went to. And I'm just in this position where I'm running in so many different directions and trying to keep everyone safe. You know, like, make sure everyone's okay. You know, are you here? Did I lose somebody along the way? Like, where's everybody?
Right.
That I don't have that. Like, do you know, like, I have to worry if Devin got out when we first moved to our new house. I did walk to each of the neighbors and show them her picture and said, if you see her outside by herself, that is a dangerous situation. And my number was on it. Please save this piece of paper. You can go up to her. She won't hurt you, but you won't know what to do with her. Please call me if you see her, because she kept trying to go back to our old house. And we lived 25 minutes away in the car. You know, like, there was no way she was going to get there. But in her mind, she had to go back to what she knew. So when you're talking about Flawless Farms, is that what you're picturing more than just the individual? Did I sense that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Our goal is going to be to support the individual, but also the family and the family's needs. My ultimate goal, obviously, it will happen in phases, but my ultimate goal is for the community to contain some really essential elements. There will be eventually 3 different housing models. There will be the 24/7, more group home style model for individuals who require that level of support. There will be 1 and 2 bedroom individual apartments or tiny homes, or however we design that, where individuals who maybe need less support, but just some help, maybe they need help with transportation, or maybe they need help with remembering to shower more than once a month, or things like that. They'll receive that kind of support, almost like an independent living kind of style housing community. And then we're hoping, lastly, to, develop homes where families could come live on the property. They could purchase that house and live in the community with their children or loved ones as a family unit, but still be part of the Flawless Farms community. So those are really our 3 housing models that we want to have on the property. We want to have a workshop where you can build, woodworking, or you could make soap, or, have an art studio. If you're an artist, you can do art. We want to have a retail shop, a coffee shop, a restaurant. We want to have a center where we have activities, events, therapies like spelling to communicate and RPM like Krista Mason does. We want to have a farm, a vegetable garden, and a flower garden, and animals for individuals who live on the community and love that kind of thing. Now, that won't be my daughter. She has explicitly told me that she hates farms.
Mine did too.
She hates bugs and she hates farms. But when I show her the model of Flawless Farms, when I show her what's going to be there, her eyes light up and she says, I love Flawless Farms and I want to live there. And so, it's, and all of the individuals, I volunteer at our special needs church room that's full of adults who live with their families, but you talk to them about Flawless Farms and you see their eyes light up. They all are longing for that independence. They're longing for those opportunities to have meaningful things to do with their life. And just because they're disabled, it doesn't mean that those things don't exist. Just because they're profound doesn't mean that those feelings don't exist for them. They're there. And so having a pavilion where once a week we can have concerts and get-togethers and things that they're normally excluded from, because if they have a behavior or they start, being too loud, then at a normal pavilion or concert, they would kick them out, right? They'd be like, you're being too loud, get out of here. At Benjamin's Hope, when I went and saw, the key takeaway points for me at that community were the sense of community I felt. Everybody was walking around. Everybody knew each other. Every time Krista Mason came up to a group of people, the residents were hugging her. Hi, Krista. Everybody knew their name at that community. And the church. And then when she showed us the homes, the thing that struck me is they were beautiful homes.
They didn't look like institutional homes. I know, they're gorgeous.
There.
Look at that kitchen. I know the kitchens are fabulous.
I know. Yeah. And why not? Do people who have disabilities not deserve to have beautiful kitchens and beautiful homes? And I love that, because absolutely they do. And that's really, I want the community to be something that the families of individuals who live there can be proud of and say, my child lives there, or we live in the community of Flawless Farms. And, having the walking path, having the farm, having the community events. And then my ultimate dream is on the property to have a medical center where individuals with disabilities can access dental care, routine dental care, access primary medical care, have labs drawn. Do you know how many kids and adults go without proper medical treatment because they can't get a simple lab draw?
Right. And if the person could come right to your home or they're right in your neighborhood, then you can stop by. I kept saying, if I could just bring Devin to a dentist and have her sit in the chair once a week, by the 10th time, I think she'd stay there. And I think you'd be able to clean at least one tooth. You know, like sometimes it just takes that familiarity. Right. If I see him at the floral shop, I know the dentist. If I, you know, like our kids need time to warm up. We have a few minutes left. Steve, I don't know if you look like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I want to bring it full circle, Kristina. Yesterday morning, I had a call from a care manager. It's called Life Plan. It's one of the people that the OPWDD assigns care management now to our individuals with disabilities. I got a call from the supervisor to see if there's anything they could do to help this kid. This kid is 16 years old, profound autism, catatonic, everything that you're describing with your own son. It's eerie. He's in the ER room. He's been there a month. The mother dropped him off. She can't do it anymore, and he's lashed out. She's literally dropped him off, and they've called numerous facilities, provide everything they can possibly do, and there's nobody coming. Like I said earlier, there isn't anybody. So the supervisor doesn't know what to do. She hears my name out there. She says, is there anything you can do? I went up and visited him. You know what he said to me when I walked in the door? The first thing he says, you're not going to take me because I have autism. You're not going to help me because I have seizures. And I told him, yes, I will. I showed him my autism barn, which perked his face right up because they don't ever see any quality of life. He's stuck in this ER room, and he's mobile. I mean, he talks. He's playing Xbox. He has issues. Yes. He doesn't belong in there. And the mother can't take him in a place like Flawless Farms. It ties right in because it's a place that he could go. And maybe the mother would go because she could ask community to help her with her son, which he doesn't have right now. I'm doing everything I can to try and help this kid. I never had met him before. I've never met the mother. I'm going to see what I can do behind the scenes to try and help this kid. But this is going on everywhere. Every single state in this country, kind of stuff is going on. It's got to stop. We need more Flawless Farms.
We sure do, Steve. You're absolutely right.
And boarding in a hospital, there's legislation that I'm helping with in the state of New York, because it's such a big deal once you get stuck there. And that could be a mom that says, we have this in the county that I'm in. For some reason, some families were actually counseled to sever their parental rights, to put their children in foster care. They said right now they have a parent, so they have a caregiver, and they have a roof over their head. Their priority is like really, really low. No matter how severe the needs were, no matter what was happening in that home, they had a roof over their head and they had a parent. They said if you surrender them to the ED and you terminate your parental rights, it's going to escalate them right up to the top of the list. And parents did it. And then guess what? They have no say. Now they're a ward of the state, and the state still has nowhere to put them. So now the family has that guilt, because no parent wants to get to the point where they say, I have to drop you off and drive away.
You might make that sacrifice if you knew that they were going to have this great future, right? But that never is the case. And here in Michigan, if you drop your child or your adult child who you're the guardian of off and abandon them, the state charges you criminally with abandonment. And then on the flip side, if you're a parent and you're demanding accountability, you have to be super careful, because if you decide to make an enemy of these state institutions, they can retaliate against you. And I've seen it happen with multiple families here in this state, where the state is like, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with you. So we're going to take custody of this child and then we're going to throw them wherever we want to put them, and we don't have to deal with you anymore. And it's just absolutely terrifying for so many families.
I think Flawless Farms, even if you're in the middle of a crisis, if you know your neighbor's not going to call the cops on you because your kid is screaming, or if you know the mom next door is going to make you dinner because she's been there, there's no price tag that I wouldn't pay to have that kind of community. So thank you so much for taking the bull by the horns and just doing it step by step and showing people. And I hope that you'll keep us posted on your progress. And if you have, any big events or things like for awareness or education, please share them. Join the Facebook group. It's pretty active. We talk about a home care program on that a lot. So when you were talking about what you do professionally, ours is called CDPAP in New York, and it's a mess. So lots of conversations about what a mess that is. But there's so many things on Finding Common Ground that we do discuss, and so many different initiatives that we're each involved in. So use that platform, elevate your idea, and hopefully someone takes your blueprint and they do it in their own backyard.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Heather and Steve. I so appreciate having the opportunity to come and talk with you both about Flawless Farms. And we're excited. We, our board, we just had our board meeting Tuesday, and we're just, every board meeting, we're inspired and we're motivated, and we know that it will happen because it's meant to be.
Kristina, and I talked to Michael Skinner, the film producer, already, and he's all in about you guys being first. So we will be chatting. I will get a hold of you. We'll talk. He's probably going to want to get what he did here together, so you have an idea how we started from scratch all the way through. And we'll sit with you. He'll probably want to come on too, being the first one, and we'll Zoom with you, and we'll see if we can help you and collaborate with Flawless Farms out there too.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yes, please.
Right,
we need more of you, right?
We need a Flawless Farms and a Benjamin's Hope in every county and every state.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. Until next time.
Continue the conversation by joining our Facebook group. If you're a fan of the show, please join our Supporters Club. Subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your favorite listening app, but most of all, share it with your friends. Just one more click or comment can make a huge difference and help us to continue finding common ground.